Alien, and I'm an international student advisor.
And Razan and I work with each other. My name is Charter Morris. I'm director of the International Student and Scholar Services Office here. We do visa support for international students, faculty, staff, and researchers.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much for the introduction. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this GRAD Connect session, where we'll be going through how to prepare for your F1 and J1 visa interview specifically. And before we get started, I know I've mentioned my name. I would just like to give you a little background so you can have a clear understanding of who is speaking with us today. I've been I was in Nigeria in 2022, of which I got my admission, got my I-20, and made my way down to the United States. So I have quite a very clear understanding of this whole process because I've witnessed it myself. So my name again is Solomon Sesishi Ajasa, and I'm a PhD student in the Department of Civil Construction and Environmental Engineering here at UA. I also did my master's here, which was in 2023. And currently I am a graduate teaching assistant for the department, of which I get my funding support, and I am from Lagos State, Nigeria. So we'll be going through a couple of, we'll be touching base on a couple of things. I know we all have all kinds of questions to ask at the end of the session, but I will try to, make it brief at the same time as informative as possible. So the very first thing to begin with is to know the different visa types. Right, because after you must have gotten some of the documents from the university, you would be required to fill some forms. I would mention every of these things. And the very first thing that confuses a lot of students is what type of visa am I to apply for? So as a scholar, there are majorly two types of visa that brings you down to the United States for study purpose. And the very first one is the F1 visa, which is what we regard to as the typical student visa. And the other one is the J1 visa, which is the visitor exchange program. So to speak a bit on the F1 visa, I am currently on an F1 visa myself. So what it does is that the purpose of this visa is to bring you down to the United States for academic study. So it means that you are either trying to get your bachelor's, your master's, or your PhD in a specific area of interest. And for you to get that, an I-20 form is usually issued, which goes through the Office of the International Student Services. So this is provided after you have been able to, provide the funding support. So after you've gotten admitted into the university, the international office will reach out to you to provide information like your passport information, your bank statement, your source of fund, who is funding you. So if it happens that maybe your funding is coming through a family member, let's say your mom or your dad, you'll be required to submit your bank statements as well as maybe a financial form, of which that is what the international office would use to prepare the I-20 form. You can check out the link that Chata just dropped in the chat box. So after you've gotten your I-20, and another thing is also the work option. So for an F1 visa, student visa, you can only work 20 hours a week. So for someone like me who is a graduate teaching assistant, it means that my assistantship only allows me to work on campus for 20 hours a week. I cannot work outside of the university. I cannot do any other thing except for, fulfilling my academic purpose. And if you are a J1 visa, majorly it means you're here on a visitors exchange program. So think about if you're a Fulbright scholar, for example, you're coming from another country to come study here for a period of time, of which you'll be going back to your country afterwards. It could also be a short-term exchange, probably one semester exchange program, all of these are part of what is covered with the J1 visa. So typically the form that you get will be the DS 2019, which is, different from the I-20 that is issued for the F1 visa. And most times your funding support would come from the government. It could be from the government of your country, or it could be, just like the Fulbright program that I did mention. And then you're strictly here for academic training because your funding support comes directly from, that institution that has sent you over to be an exchange visitor. So you don't have the same opportunity as much as, the F1 student does. I know there are a few yardstick to it of which you can apply, but I won't be going into those details for the sake of this particular presentation. So that's about it, getting to know the different visa type. Now let's go on to talk about some of the required documents that you need for your visa interview. So you've been offered admission to University of Alabama, and you're trying to prepare all your documents for your visa. The very first thing, which is very, very important, is your passport. I mean, it's non-negotiable. I also forgot to mention that, these visa types and the non-immigrant visa types. So it means that you are a citizen of another country, you are regarded as an international student coming to the United States. So you will definitely need the passport of the country, right, that you're coming from. And then you would be provided or issued the I-20 form or the DS 2019, as I mentioned earlier. And the next thing is, after you've gotten the I-20 form, the next thing is for you to proceed to a page where you would fill your DS 160 form. It's a form that's you would provide all kinds of information. Now, it's very important that the information you provide there are very, very clear. And, they're very clear in the sense that you don't want to provide an information that could potentially confuse the consular office, when you go for your interview. So you need to sit down, ensure that you have enough time to fill the form. You're going to answer questions around questions about yourself. Who are you? You're going to be you'll be asked questions about your security background. They will ask you questions about your funding source. What job have you done? What's your work experience? In short, you would also be asked to provide like your social media accounts and things of that nature. So the whole idea is the US consular office wants to have a clear understanding of who you are, the person that is funding you, right? So that is where you provide those information. So you are the one, providing those information as I mentioned. And the next thing, after you've filled the DS 160 form, that you're certain that everything you've provided is good, the next thing is for you to confirm the page. The confirmation will come with an application ID. So this is the application ID is what you then use to apply for your visa appointment, right? So you would have a particular ID which you would use to, apply for your visa appointment. I'm sure if you go through the link that Charter shared, you'd see all the different links. You see everything that you need to do for that. Now, there's one thing that a lot of people don't do, which is payment of the service fee. After you've gotten your I-20, there'll be a set of numbers on your I-20 form called the service fee. So this, you're meant to actually make a payment of about $350 to activate that service. If you go for an interview without making payment of this service, that alone disqualifies you from the interview. So this payment is very, very important for you to make. So it's always advisable that you make it about maybe 2 days or a week before your interview. In short, you can do it as soon as you can. You don't have to wait until, the interview date before you make the payment. So when you're going for your interview, you need to have the service fee receipt readily available. And then your university admission letter is also very critical, right? Because that shows that you were actually admitted into the university. And think about the reason why you're going for the interview. The reason is because you want to establish that you got admitted and you have an intent to study in that university. So, and the next thing is the financial documents. This is always important, in the case of if the visa officer is requesting for additional information, sort of financial documents to really establish that you have, enough money to survive, in the US. Because in your financial documents, it would not just be tuition alone. You'll be required to show a proof for your insurance as well as your living expenses. So all of these are required to be mentioned. And so your financial documents would show that you have enough money to proceed. Also, if you have a scholarship letter, for example, some of the J1 visitors visa, they get scholarship letters, which they also take along for to the visa to the consular office. And then you could go with other supporting documents that could just help you, establish your case. Now, after you've gone through the different documents that you need to go with, let me just chip in something at these documents. Please ensure that you have all these documents readily available. Try to make a couple of copies of each of these different documents. You don't want to wait until the day of the interview, because what happens is it could be difficult for you to get it printed out. And if you would even get it printed out, it could be very expensive, right? Like very, very expensive. So you want to ensure that you are not having to spend a lot and you are not so agitated and anxious. So all of these things needs to be ready way before you go for your interview. Now, understanding the interview process, it's very important. There are three major segments, right? I sort of just sectioned it into three bullet points. The first is the purpose of the interview, right? Why exactly is there a need for a visa interview? So basically, it's for you to establish your intentions and to be able to establish that your intentions are really genuine, right? And that you meet all the requirements that is requested, right? So it's very important that if you have this at the back of your mind, it will help you when you're preparing for your interview. And the second thing is, what are they looking for? Right. Okay. Now you know what the purpose is. I'm going for the interview because I want to be able to establish that I'm coming here to study, right? I'm coming here for my master's, I'm coming here for my PhD, and I have an intention to, just study. And I believe that these skills be very, very useful for my career path. So you need to be able to establish that. Now, what are they looking for? They are looking for a couple of things, which I also sort of put into these three sections. The first is the academic intent. They want you to really prove to them that you really want to come and study. So think about the visa officer asking you, what is your purpose for going to the United States? And you cannot establish that, oh, I'm going to study, right? Or you're unable to kind of give me a minute.
And I can jump in
Oh,
here. So yeah, they're asking, yeah, like, what's your purpose? They may ask you, why did you choose the University of Alabama? You have all these universities in the United States. Why did you pick here? They may ask why you picked your specific major. So sometimes it's very clear. You have an undergraduate degree in engineering, and so you're going into civil engineering, and it's just a continuation of your previous studies. But if you are making kind of a shift to a different area of study, say you're going from social sciences to education, or maybe a STEM field to a non-STEM discipline, you may want to have to explain why you made that decision to go with a different discipline.
yeah. Thank you very much,
No
Chata.
problem.
So the other one is the financial capacity. Studying in the US is quite expensive, right? Especially speaking as an international student, it's quite expensive. So they want to be sure that you can survive in the US. They don't want you to come down to the US and you're struggling, right? So you need to be able to establish that the funding source would be able to, take care of your needs all through your program. For example, I am currently on, assistantship. So if it happens that you are not on assistantship, when I was coming to the US, I was not on assistantship. I came in with, family support, and I was able to establish that my family would take good care of me while I'm in the US, right? So that is very important. You need to be able to convince them. They could ask you questions about what job does your parents, if you say that it's your dad or your mom, they could ask you questions. Oh, what do they do for a living, right? What is their take home? How much do they have in their savings? If they run an organization, they would like to know the size of the organization. How long has the company been in existence? What is your family structure? For example, if you have maybe four siblings that are still in school, and you're going to be having to spend about 50K or a lot more, they really just want to have a clear understanding to see if you'd be able to survive. And then the third one is the non-immigrant intent, which is also very important. This is where they want to establish. Remember that I mentioned earlier that this is a non-immigrant type of visa. So it means that they're expecting you to go back to your home country after your study in the US. So you need to be able to establish what your home ties is, right? What is your plan after you graduate? Are you coming back to your country to study? Will you be using the skills that you've learned? Are you able to transfer it back home, to, develop something good for yourself? So that is also a very important aspect. Sometimes people often tend to um, they people often tend to ignore that part, and they do so well, and when they get to that point that they're unable to establish that home ties, it could be sort of a problem for them. So that is also key. And then the third one is, how long does the interview usually last? It's always very brief and very direct. When I did mine, I got in front of the visa officer. I said, "Good morning." She responded. She asked for my documents. I provided it, and she started asking me the questions. Right. So it's on an average of 2 minutes to 5 minutes. Right. You have a question. As you're answering, sometimes you probably wouldn't. You might not even provide enough information before the visa officer will ask you another question, right? So in the process of trying to provide enough information, you get asked another question. So you need to be ready to answer all these different questions that comes your way. Now, I also, just similar to what Chata has mentioned earlier, I drafted a couple of common questions that you get when you go for your visa interview. So one could be, why do you want to study in the US? There are so many other countries. Why did you pick the United States? So you need to be able to establish that. For example, in civil engineering, United States is one of the leading countries when it comes to civil engineering practices. So I want to learn from the very best, so that I know that whatever I'm learning is really going to be useful for me for, the next couple of years. And it could even be that there's a specific program, right, in that school that you're applying to, that maybe other universities do not have. It could be that, oh, you want to work with a particular professor who is a leading practice, who is a leading researcher in that practice, right? And you believe that, learning from him would be of so much value to you. So all of these things you need to be able to clarify and mention it. So if you're asked, why did you choose the University of Alabama? I remember being asked this question, and one of the responses I gave was the weather condition in the South, right? The climate is quite different. It's quite, similar to what we have in Nigeria, right? Compared to maybe the up north where it gets really cold. And I know I could be allergic to, cold and flu and things of that nature. So, being able to establish those facts as well, they're also very critical as to why you're choosing the university. And also when it comes to the program, are you going for a PhD? If you're going for a PhD, do you currently have your master's? Or you could say it's a build up on what I have been doing for the last 10 years, right? If you're switching programs, you need to let them understand why you're switching. Oh, maybe you have about 15 years work experience in a different field compared to what you studied, and you think it's important for you to have an additional degree, in that area, or it could be a new interest, so many reasons. All of these are very peculiar to you. Try as much as possible to write out your answers. Don't just go on the internet and pick up what you see there and paste it. You need to ensure that you are tailoring this to your own self, because this is about you. This is very, very much about you. The visa officers attend to a lot of applicants daily, so they know when you are providing vague answers. They know when you are genuinely and sincerely providing answers, that are specific to you, that are tailored to you. So you want to ensure that you are able to do that. And when it comes to who is sponsoring you, you want to, clarify. For example, if your parents are sponsoring you, you need to provide more information as to what do they do for a living, different informations like that. I would add a tip that you don't need to wait for them to ask you specific questions before you answer. So if you are being asked who is sponsoring you, you need to just tell them everything about the sponsor, right? It's not just about, oh, my dad. For example, if you who is sponsoring my dad, that's not enough. We need to know who your dad is, right? What does your dad do for a living? How has your dad been able to make this amount of money that he's using to, sponsoring you to another country? So all of these are key. And then if you have a scholarship, you could talk about how what you're going to be doing. Oh, you're going to be a research assistant, you're going to be a teaching assistant, and that requires that you're going to be doing what? So for example, I am a graduate teaching assistant and I teach safety engineering and management. It means that I'll be proctoring, exams and tests and all kinds of things. I'll be grading student submission. I'll provide office hours to students. I'm just going to be that extra person for the professor. You just need to be able to give enough information in that regard. And questions like what will you do after graduation? Or it could be, okay, what next after you finish? That goes back to the intent of the non-immigrants, which is the home ties. You need to let them know that you plan to come back to your country, and what exactly will you be doing? You need to have like specific interest. For example, I believe you didn't just wake up one day that, oh, I'm going to grad school. You took about a year or 6 months to plan for it. So you should have plans, things that you want to do after you graduate. Now, there are a few do's and don'ts when it comes to, the visa interview. There are a few do's and don'ts. The do's are you need to arrive very early. Most times, now, if I'm going to be specific to, I did mine in Lagos, Nigeria, and most of the time slots were very early in the morning, 7:30, 6:30, 8:30. You need to get there about 2 hours before. And the reason is because it's always a long queue and you need to go through security, right? So it's better you arrive early so you would not be anxious or agitated as you go through the process. So arrive very early, stay calm, be organized, right? Be very polite. Your interview begins immediately you get into the lobby. It's not until you get in front of the visa officer before you get interviewed. As you interact with other people, as the way you react with other people, the visa officer, sees all those things. And even before you get there, sometimes they make decisions about you. So all of these are very critical to your interview. And then you need to listen carefully and answer as concisely as possible, right? Listen, if you did not get the question, ask them what they said, right? Don't be too forward. Allow the visa officer to ask you the question before you begin to answer. Don't let them say just 2 lines and you're like, "Ooh," you're not, don't act like a robot, right? Just be yourself, be yourself. I know there will be a little bit of tension, you'll be tense, you'll be a little agitated, but you just need to remain as calm as possible. And then please ensure that you communicate, in English, speak as fluently as you can, unless, otherwise instructed. And then keep your documents very accessible and orderly. Have it in a clear bag, or you could have it somewhere where it's all pinned together, and you're able to get everything. Now, when it comes to the don'ts, I've mentioned some of this before, but I'm just going to reiterate. Please ensure that your answers are not vague, right? And they're not inconsistent. Similar to what I mentioned with the DS 160 form, you want to ensure that the answers that you're providing align with what you have in your DS 160 form, right? That is also very important. So you need to remember all that you wrote down in your DS 160. You need to be able to explain further, right? You need to, articulate properly. Also, things like your social media footprint are also very important. If you have, for example, if you are the type that, you make posts on LinkedIn about your career, and things that you do, and if you come to the interview and you're saying something completely different from that, it's very easy for them to, rule it out. And, so all of these things too are very key to your interview. And then please ensure you're not submitting fake documents. Oh, before I get to that, ensure that you're not being defensive or you're arguing. I had a very, quite an unpleasant experience when I went for my interview. There was a lady in front of me who was arguing with the visa officer, and it wasn't really the best experience for you. So try to remain calm. Know that this is just about 5 minutes. So even if you have anger issues, please just stay calm, until you get through it. And then please don't submit fake documents. This is a major problem, right? This has been like a very, very big problem for a lot of people. It's gonna damage your chances of ever getting a visa, right? There are lots of consequences with submitting fake documents. It's better to be honest than try to be dubious just because you want to travel abroad. So please, it's important that you don't submit fake documents. And then don't say that, oh, you plan to stay in the US permanently. Okay, remember that it's a non-immigrant visa. So don't ever get caught in between and do that. So yeah, this is more of the last slide I have on. These are just some tips for success. Make sure you practice and practice and practice and practice. I think when I was going for mine, I ensure that I practice a minimum of 3 times a day with different people, right? I try to, I just, talk to friends that don't even know what I am doing, and I try to explain it to them. If they can understand, the visa officer would definitely understand, because I don't expect the visa officer to be a civil engineer, but I need to be able to communicate in clear terms, simple terms, right? So the more you practice, the better you get. And please don't try to cram. Know it. I mean, this is about you. It's just a way of, if you ask me right now, that Solomon, what is your research about? I should be able to, tell you enough about my research without having to read a book. So it's important that you practice, know your program well, know the advisor you'll be working with, know what the length of the program is. All of this information on the I-20 is also key. You have like the length of the program, all of those things, get to know them clearly. And then body language is also very important. Body language is very, very important. You need to look confident, right? You cannot be saying something, but your facial expression and your body reads something else. Another thing I would add to it is, depending on the location, I know for example, in Lagos and in Abuja, you get to stand, right? You have to stand all through. When you enter the lobby, You stand for, it could be for about 30 minutes to 1 hour or 2 hours sometimes. So you'll be on that posture till you go for your interview, and you also stand as you speak to the visa officer. So you need to, prepare your mind mentally and physically, in that regard. And the last one is keep it honest and simple. Don't try to overcomplicate matters. Just, please keep it very simple. It's not a do or die affair, right? It's not. If you go for your interview, just go with the mindset that you will do the best that you can. But that's about it. So that's about it from my end. I hope this has been helpful. I know you definitely have tons of questions to ask. So the floor is yours now. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Solomon. I know that was some great tips to share. I always learn something new. As someone who did not go through a visa process or anything like that, I always learn something new every time we do one of these sessions. So thank you guys for that. Also having a recent perspective of one of our own students who went through that process. So like I said in the chat, you guys who have questions, please go ahead and send those in the Q&A feature. I know some have already sent some that Charter was able to answer as we were going through, but definitely we'll hang out for a few minutes. We will stay up until 3 o'clock, but if no one submits any questions up over the next, I'm going to say until 2:40 p.m., we will wait as you want to gather and type out your questions, but definitely we will answer those. Okay, so I'm going to read these out and let you guys answer them. So this question is, can we apply for the ACT card before arrival? I'm assuming they're talking about their UA ACT card.
Yeah, the action card. It is possible to do that. I know that you can upload your photo, and I believe that you can get that mostly loaded. We find that a lot of students have a hard time getting it set up because of the Duo, the dual factor authentication that we have. That can be problematic, and it's even the extra complication is you may get Duo set up on your phone and then it's attached to one phone number back in your home country. And then you get here and you get a new SIM card and a new phone number. And we get a lot of difficulties there with that switch. But our ACT card office, the folks that handle the action cards, are extremely helpful. Like, so a lot of our new students actually, when they get on campus, if they're having issues with that, they can go ahead and go over to the ACT card office, which is pretty centrally located, and get assistance with that in person. So they have a lot of troubleshooting on their website. They can help you get set up. They want as many people as they can to go ahead and get that set up prior to arrival. So
Yeah, I mean, for the ACT card, it's always because, for example, there are some phone brands that don't work in the US that work in Nigeria. So the moment you come to the US, you're unable to use those phones, and then you're unable to use the number, so it becomes a problem. So at times we just advise, students to wait until they get to the campus, set up their phones, and then, set up their ACT card. I mean, I don't think you're going to have to use your ACT card until you get here.
And so somebody asked, do we have a pickup from Atlanta? So we're arranging, and I hope to have this sent out. Rosanna and I and Trong and Katie Grace are working on some messaging to go out. But we've arranged for shuttle pickup from the Birmingham airport for the 10 days really prior to classes. And so the heaviest pickup time will be that weekend and first couple of days before graduate orientation and graduate teaching assistantship workshops. But those airport pickups are from Birmingham. So Tuscaloosa is about a 3 hour to 3.5 hour drive from the Atlanta airport. It's a very long drive. And there are some shuttle services that do offer limited pickup from Atlanta to Tuscaloosa, but only during certain times of the year. Typically, that's going to be at the start of the semester. So I put in a link in the answers, and I'll put it here too in the chat on our arrival page. There is airport info and shuttles you'll see there. and there is a company called Groom Transportation, and they're one of the few that run shuttles from Atlanta to Tuscaloosa. It's fairly affordable, and but it is limited, and they only really run their shuttles to Tuscaloosa at the beginning of the school year and at the end of the school year and during breaks. So it's not a year-round thing. If you're coming to Atlanta, you're going to have to factor in additional transportation. For most new students, we do recommend that they try to arrive to Birmingham in order to make sure that they have accessible shuttle transportation to Tuscaloosa. Then after that first trip, when you get to know people and you make some community connections, you can make arrangements for things like a drop off at Atlanta, or, you know, work out arrangements with friends who have cars. But for that first arriving to Birmingham is typically the best option.
Someone also asked, how can we get family housing from Nigeria?
You'll have to look for off-campus housing. So generally speaking, housing on campus is limited to first-year undergraduate students, freshmen. So we have more than 40,000 students at the University of Alabama, and we have housing on campus for about 10,000. So we can only really house about 25% of our total population, and that typically is our freshman class. Our freshman class is around 10,000 students. So you can see why that priority is there. The family housing is typically through nearby apartments. Solomon, you can probably speak to that. I'm sure you've lived off campus your entire time here.
Yeah. So, well, there are different ways to it. Of course, off-campus housing is where you go to as a grad student. You don't get to stay on campus. There are websites you can check. I think it's also on the ISS page, where you'll be able to see different, apartments, right? You probably want to check for apartments that are close to the campus, the Publix area, you would also see how close it is to campus. It's going to be in miles, so you can look at it. And another thing is, there are also different student groups here on campus, different student groups from different countries, right? And some of them offer great support for it. I know of, for an example, the African Student Association. We create like groups for new students coming in, and we all help with placements, housing, and things like that. So those are also ways. I know the Indian students also do that as well. So that could be a way to just help you with getting your apartments and all kinds of things. Even in terms of pickup as well, some of these students groups help, student organizations help with that. Chata just shared the link in the group, so you can check it and reach out to the student organization that's fits your need.
And then somebody in the Q&A did ask about schools for their children. So we have a lot of graduate students who do have families. We have a spouse support group on campus that is really recently reformed. And so if you have spouses, a spouse who will come with you, there's a group on campus for them to meet with. But for dependent children, for schools, in the US, school is always attached to where you live. So it's not a matter of picking the school. It's more of a matter of picking the place you live. And then based on where you live, that's the school that you'll attend, is the one that's closest to that or you're zoned for. Some people will actually pick their housing based on the school that they want their child to go to. And that is not uncommon. So there's a couple of really good little elementary schools that are on the north side of the city across the river. And so I know people who will look for apartments nearby those so that they can have that school zone for their children. The headache is, of course, that's much further away from the campus, and then it's harder to get transportation. Generally speaking, around the university area, we're zoned for a little elementary school called University Place. And my children went there. It's a lovely little school. It's set in a nice little neighborhood. They have ducks. Like, I don't know. Like, it's one of the big attractors there is the children get to say hello to the ducks that like to walk from the lake nearby campus. So and yeah, so it's a very lovely little school.
Someone else sent a question that says, as a visa would be non-immigrant, can specific fields of study be problematic for visa issuance, such as defense-related projects? Great question.
Very good question. Yes. And not trying to scare you at all, but yes, it is something to be aware of is that there are potential for delays. I've got, and I'll put it in the group chat about visa delays and denials. So generally speaking, if your field of research is sensitive, if it has even dual use or if it has direct military applications, that could lead to something they call administrative processing. Now, administrative processing is a catch-all word or phrase that the embassy uses. You could be sent to administrative processing just because they have to do a brief background check because of your travel history, or you might have triggered something because of your, nationality or, country of birth. Or more than likely it is they're looking at your research field and what you'll be accessing. If you get a hit on something that's related to like a technology alert list or anything like that, what they'll do is they'll ask you for additional information about your program of study. So they'll ask you what courses will you take? Like, can we get a CV of your major professor so we know what research they do and what, laboratory access they have? They may ask those types of questions. Typically, these are cleared. I read one statistic that 90% of administrative processing is cleared in less than 2 weeks. But some of them do take longer, which means applying early is really important. Solomon, did they send yours for administrative processing when you
No,
did? Okay.
no.
And your area of civil engineering, what's yours focused on? Is it more construction or?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. I think in engineering, probably people doing aerospace, could be sent for that. And it also depends on nationality. A lot of Nigerians don't get sent for administrative process, but there are some other nationalities that, it could be common with them.
Yeah. Generally speaking, if from what I've seen, it's primarily 5 countries that regularly will see this, and it does not mean that it's automatic. It does not mean that it is like going to lead to a denial. It just means that it's something to be aware of. But our students from China, India, Pakistan, Israel, or Russia, we see delays. From those areas, and on top of that, any nation with which we have strained diplomatic relations or no diplomatic relations. So Iran, Syria, Afghanistan, North Korea, Cuba, Libya, you're going to see there will be longer visa delays because we don't have a diplomatic presence in those countries. And so that's not uncommon. That there's not a guarantee that anybody will be tagged. I've seen folks from European students who are studying business that have been sent to administrative processing. There's no rhyme or reason for any of it, to be honest. But there might be something that flags. Maybe there's a name that matches another name on like an Interpol list, and all they are doing is sending it for somebody to clarify that like the John Smith from England that just applied is not the John Smith on this other list, or it's like I said, it is fairly common. But yes, if you are studying in a more sensitive field, I think you should be looking at that section that I just linked to about visa delays. There is some steps you can take to, have a copy of your degree plan, and what courses you'll take, and to get some stuff from your major professor so that you can be ready to submit that if they ask for those additional details. Rosanna, did you want to add anything to that from what you've seen? Oh, You're on mute.
I think, as you said, students from Iran, most of them will go through administrative processing, and this administrative processing will take longer than 1 semester. That's in my experience. And then any other countries, any students from any other countries can go through administrative processing. But in my experience, Iran is it takes longer for them to clear.
And Charter, what is, just to remind everyone, what is the deadline to submit, have all their documents in, as well as what is the date that they have to be on campus by?
Gotcha. So I have, and I'm going to drop this in.
1 month before the program start date, I think, is the deadline for I-20 requests, and that I think the program start date is August 13th.
Yes.
Yeah. So
and the
1
classes
month
start
before.
date's August 20th. So
Yes.
So yeah, we've got it 1 month before. So July 18th is the deadline for requesting for a fall semester I-20. And for those of you who are here, we're trying to get you here by the 13th because we have orientations. Literally on the 14th and 15th and 16th are all the grad school's major orientations. And you might even have some specific departmental orientations. On the 20th, that's a Wednesday, classes begin. The absolute deadline is the 27th. If you have not received your visa, if you've not been approved by August 27th, which is a week into classes, we have to seek a deferral. And it's not uncommon. Rosanna works with a lot of deferrals. I mean, we have a lot of students who apply, and for whatever reason, their visa might be denied or delayed in a decision. And so we work with those students to seek admission deferrals.
And the sooner you guys know that you need to request a deferral, the better. So that way we can get that processed, because we have to also process a deferral of admission. Request that through your department and get that approved and everything. Of course, on their office, it's even a link to your process with that. But also, if you were awarded funding, the sooner you know that you're not going to be able to get here on time, the sooner your department can make arrangements to hopefully, postpone your award for the next semester or the next year. And then also selfishly open that funding up to possibly another student if you're not able to come that year. So definitely the sooner you know, and let us know, the better we can help you and get that rolling for you. So.
Yeah. I also wanted to add that we have a couple of graduate ambassadors. We have a link for that. I'm one of the grad ambassadors as well. So you can easily go through the link and, see different students in different departments, right? Just reach out to any one of us. We're always willing to help, provide information. For example, if you're in civil engineering, any, aspect of civil, most likely would have enough information to provide for you, and then it could also be in terms of like nationality, because it's a very diverse group of students. So you can check out the graduate ambassador page as well, to just link up with some of us, and then we'll be able to help with that.
Yeah, definitely, as Solomon said, look at the current student organizations, reach out to them. They all have different groups and things, but I also earlier linked, we do have just a Facebook group for all current graduate students. It's not super active, but definitely around the time of students needing to sublease or looking for roommates. And that is really the time that they start posting in there. And of course, if you don't know where to look or how to look, I look at that group almost every day because I'm nosy. And I also technically run the group, but I also have grad assistants who, manage that group, and it's their job to respond if no one else does. So definitely, if you don't know where to start, you can definitely start in that Facebook group, or of course, email us at grad school and we can point you in the right direction. But as we are wrapping up, again, this is our email. Feel free to email us with any questions. And of course, sign up for our other upcoming sessions because they're really beneficial to get you guys ready to get here, and let us know if we can assist you I'll go ahead and if you guys, Solomon, if you want to add, one last piece, really want to thank you for taking the time to lead the session. It was great. Solomon is one of our ambassadors, but he's also one of our graduate student influencers, which is one of our new programs where we have social media influencers that kind of post about their life. And Solomon is one of our amazing influencers, also ambassador, also former GSA president, also the recent recipient of 1,000 different awards I won't list, but it's a great resource. We're so proud of him. And I'm actually about to go to our end of the year meeting for our ambassadors and influencers. So I will thank you guys for joining us. It's a tough time, but we look forward to seeing you guys on campus soon. And please reach out if we can help you in any way.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank y'all. And
Thank you.
good luck and roll tide. We'll see you guys in about 3 months.
Yeah, roll tide.